He wrote it for his two little boys. Two boys, aged 6 and 8, who lived with their mother across the country from him in New York City, and whom he wanted, once they were old enough, to be able to open a single book and know their father. That is the actual reason John Steinbeck wrote East of Eden. The story of Cain and Abel, transposed to the Salinas Valley, is not, in the end, an intellectual exercise. It is a very tall, very thin man of 50 writing a 600-page letter to his sons about the one thing he thought a father owed a child. Which is not love. Which is not comfort. Which is the truth about the choice a human being is allowed to make. He believed he had never written a real book before. He had won the Pulitzer Prize for The Grapes of Wrath 15 years earlier. He had written The Moon is Down and Cannery Row and Of Mice and Men and Sea of Cortez. He had made himself, in the popular mind, a depression writer, a novelist of migrant workers and California misfits and drought and dispossession. And in 1951 he sat down at a wooden desk on the Upper East Side of Manhattan and wrote in his journal that everything he had ever done had been practice. This one, he wrote, was the real thing. His only true book. That is the sentence I want to explain to you. Let me begin with what he thought was inadequate about the earlier work. The Grapes of Wrath was, in Steinbeck's own view, a book that had done a specific job. It had described a specific migration, in a specific decade, of a specific set of Americans, into a specific valley in California. It was a documentary novel dressed as fiction. It carried its politics openly. And it had, from Steinbeck's point of view, closed a subject. He did not want to write another novel like it. He wanted, at 50, to write a novel that was not about a moment in American history. He wanted to write a novel about the human problem itself. The one problem, in his private theology, that all of the political and social novels reduced down to. That problem was, given that a human being can act cruelly, and given that a human being can act generously, and given that the choice between the two is available in every hour of every day, why are we so certain that we cannot choose? Steinbeck was the son of a small county administrator in Salinas, California. He grew up in a household where the King James Bible was read at breakfast. He knew the Cain and Abel story the way an American in his generation knew it, as a story about a first murder, a first jealousy, a first punishment. Two brothers. One offering accepted, one rejected. One brother killing the other in a field. And a curse and a fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. The rabbis of the Talmud, Steinbeck learned in his research for East of Eden, had noticed something in that curse that Christian readers usually skipped over. In the Hebrew original, in the 16th verse of the 4th chapter of Genesis, God speaks to Cain about his coming choice. He says, in the King James translation, "Thou shalt rule over him." The him is sin. Sin is a beast crouching at the door. Cain, God is saying, will rule over it. But in the Hebrew, Steinbeck discovered, with the help of the Chinese-American scholar he calls Lee in the novel, the verb is not the imperative and not the future indicative. It is a Hebrew word that a certain rabbinical tradition has understood to mean thou mayest. Not a promise. Not an order. A permission. Timshel. Thou mayest rule over sin. That verb is the pivot of the entire novel. Because if the verb is imperative, you shall, then Cain is under a divine command. His choice is prescribed. He fails to obey. He is punished. He deserves the punishment. He was told to be good and he was not good. That is the reading most of Western civilization has run on for 2,000 years. It is the reading that founded, in Steinbeck's diagnosis, most of the moral rigidity of American Protestantism, most of the self-hatred of ordinary people who had failed to be as good as they thought they should be, and most of the intergenerational cruelty of parents whose children had disappointed them. And if the verb is future indicative, thou shalt, then Cain is under a divine forecast. He will, at some point in the future, rule over sin. His success is inevitable. The choice is already decided. He needs only to wait. That is the reading of a certain kind of quietist religion, and of a certain kind of political fatalism. It removes the burden of choice by making the outcome guaranteed. But if the verb is permissive, thou mayest, then something new happens. Cain, and every human being descended from Cain, is neither commanded nor predestined. The door is open. It is up to him. It is up to us. And the failure to walk through it is not a violation of a rule and not a delay in an inevitable outcome. It is a squandering of a possibility that no one else can spend on our behalf. That, Steinbeck argues in East of Eden, is what makes a person. Not the outcome. The possibility. The verb. Now let me show you what he does with it in the book. The Trask family, from father to sons to grandsons across 3 generations, are a slow-motion enactment of the Cain and Abel pattern. The first generation, Cyrus Trask, is a Union Army veteran who lies about his war service and favors one son over the other. The next generation, Adam and Charles, are the 2 brothers, one of them beloved by their father, one of them rejected, and Charles, from a fairly early scene in the novel, is the murderer waiting for his moment. Adam survives his brother's violence by an accident. Adam moves west. Adam marries a woman named Kathy Ames, who is one of the strangest women in 20th century American fiction, a woman Steinbeck describes as born, quite literally, without a soul. Kathy gives birth to twin sons, shoots Adam in the shoulder, walks out of the marriage, and takes up work as a prostitute in a Salinas brothel. Adam raises the twins alone. The twins are called Aaron and Caleb. Their initials, everybody notices, are the initials of Abel and Cain. And they are Cain and Abel. Aaron is beautiful and beloved and gentle, and Caleb is dark and clever and jealous, and Caleb, over the course of the novel, does what Cain did in the 4th chapter of Genesis. He destroys his brother. The twist is what happens after. In the last chapter of the novel, and I am going to spoil the last 3 pages, because they are the whole point, Adam Trask is on his deathbed. He is old. He is nearly senseless. He has spent the last 50 pages of the book unable to give his surviving son, Caleb, the words that Caleb has been waiting his whole life to hear. Because Caleb is a Cain who has always known he was a Cain, and he wants his father, before his father dies, to bless him anyway. Lee, the Chinese cook-turned-philosopher who has raised the twins alongside Adam, gets to the bed first. He crouches down. He says one Hebrew word to the dying man. Timshel. He says, "Your son is asking to be blessed with the burden of choice. Give him permission. Give him the verb." Adam Trask, at the end of the book, opens his eyes. He looks at Caleb. He whispers one word. Timshel. That is what Steinbeck was writing to his sons about. He believed that no one in a human life will make you a hero, and no one will make you a criminal, but the door will always be there, and the verb will always be permissive, and you will spend your whole life pretending you were under some other kind of grammar because the actual grammar is nearly impossible to carry. He believed his own life had been full of Timshel moments he had walked through the wrong door of. He believed the boys would too. He wanted them to have the vocabulary to at least notice the door when they came to it. That is why he called it his only true book. Consider what it means today. We live in a moment when a great deal of popular culture, and a great deal of pop psychology, and a great deal of political rhetoric, insists that people are the products of their circumstances, their trauma, their algorithms, their upbringing, their neurochemistry, their community. All of which are true, in part. All of which are absolutely necessary framings, sometimes, to understand a specific person in a specific situation. But all of which, if you take them as the whole picture, remove the door. They tell you the grammar of your life is imperative or future indicative. You must be this. You will be this. There is no verb of permission. Steinbeck's argument is that this is a lie, and that it is a comfortable lie, and that the actual grammar of human life is harder, but that it is also more generous, because it means that the person you become tomorrow is not decided yet by anyone but you. Not by your circumstances. Not by your parents. Not by the algorithm. That is not a small argument. It is one of the biggest arguments a novelist has ever made in an American century. And it is why East of Eden, 72 years after it was published, is quietly climbing back onto the shelves of readers who thought Steinbeck was safely a period writer from the Depression. He was not. He was writing his one true book about a verb. The next time you find yourself in a room with a copy of East of Eden, open it to the last 3 pages. Read them slowly. Then close the book. Then decide, in that room, whether you buy the argument. If this changed how you think about East of Eden, subscribe. We break down the most important books ever written, one argument at a time. New video every week. And if this was worth 10 minutes of your life, hit like. It helps the channel more than you think.